Before we get started on the second panel of the afternoon, I'm George Dent, a director of the National Association of Scholars, and I have the privilege today of awarding the Peter Shaw Memorial Award to Russell Nieli. Who benefits? Is it just? Does it work as promised? What are its intended and unintended consequences? Where will it lead our nation? For almost half a century, such questions have swirled around the policy of granting racial preferences to minority students. No public policy has been more controversial, and no policy has given rise to such contention among scholars. It was not always so. For a brief moment leading up to the passage in 1964 of the Civil Rights Act, it seemed that America was on a path to tear down the walls of racial classification and privilege that were the unfinished business of the Civil War. The Civil Rights Act forcefully outlawed such preferences. The following year, the determination of President Johnson to end racial preference took further form in Executive Order 11246, which called for affirmative action by employers to advertise their commitment to non-discrimination. The nation appeared to be well started on the journey to teach itself how to treat all individuals as persons of equal dignity, endowed with equal rights. Then, something tragic happened. The movement in favor of equality of all switched back on itself and became a movement for compensatory advantages to be conferred on selected representatives of groups that had suffered past injustices. We became a nation seemingly convinced that it could make up for injustice with fresh injustice. This switch back is Russell Nieli's great topic. Over the course of 4 decades, Dr. Nieli has examined it with moral urgency and intellectual meticulousness. In essay after essay, he picked through the legal dodges, the mythologies, the rhetorical evasions, and the intellectual rationalizations for affirmative action. He mastered the ever-shifting arguments, sifted the ever-expanding evidence, and synthesized what he found into plain English. No one would say that Russell Nieli is a neutral observer. The title of his new book, Wounds That Will Not Heal, is not autobiographical. The wounds he refers to are the wounds of racial grievance and persistent poverty. But the reader also senses Nieli's own wound, his astonished recognition early in his career that in the midst of the night, the movement for human equality and colorblind justice had been stolen away and replaced by a movement that champions inequality and color-conscious distribution of public goods. Nieli's words for this switchback include deceit and deception. When it comes to racial preferences, who benefits? Dr. Nieli shows that most of the benefits flow to the already affluent and privileged. Is that system just? Hardly. Does it work as promised? No. It leaves those who it is supposed to help in the dust. Books by academicians on racial preferences are many, and no doubt many more remain to be written. Among these many books, however, Russell Nieli's Wounds That Will Not Heal stands out for its intellectual and historical sweep, its mastery of the arguments on all sides, and the powerful lucidity of his writing. These qualities that the National Association of Scholars recognizes in the award named in honor of Peter Shaw for his exemplary writing on higher education and American intellectual culture, the National Association of Scholars is pleased to confer on Russell Nieli the Peter Shaw Memorial Award for excellence in exposition. Russell.
Just let me say a few words here about how important NAS has been and academic questions in my own life. I certainly owe NAS and academic questions a lot more, a greater debt of gratitude than they owe me. And let me explain very briefly what happened when I first came to Princeton Graduate School in 1971. There was a virtual civil war going on between the faculty, virtually all of whom were New Deal Democrats, and a few to the left of that, and the graduate student organization leaders who were a particularly strident, angry brand of Marxist or Marxoid. It was a Marxist against the New Deal liberals. And I'm a man of the right. I said to myself, if they're so angry and strident, the faculty, and it's sort of the New Deal liberals against the Marxists, where am I going to fit in? I'm a Reaganite Republican here. And there were sort of two things that kept me sane and kept me at Princeton. One is I discovered what we might call fair-minded leftist professors. And I think anybody who, like myself, has right-of-center views and is on almost any elite college campus, or almost any campus where the left is the hegemonic force, is going to have to find such people, or you're just not going to survive. And I was very fortunate. I found two professors who, although they had views very different than my own, they greatly respected me because they said, hey, this guy's pretty sharp. He's pretty smart. You know, he has views very different than my own, and I think they're wrong. But I was respected for intellect and ability to put forth arguments. The other factor was what I call mail from home. And the mail from home was primarily in terms of various publications, including National Review, commentary, and academic questions, that I realized there were people out there who held views that were like mine, even though I was surrounded by those, nobody else who did. So you feel much less isolated when academic questions would come, when commentary would come, when National Review would come. It was like the soldiers of the World War II pictures, or in MASH and in the Korean War, you know, the mail from home. You feel that there are people out there who share your worldview. And as I say, that in combination with people like Sidney Hook. But he's sort of a guy clearly who's rational. He's a man of the left, but I'm sure if I knew him, we could sit down and have hours and hours of conversation. There are people out there in even the most liberal universities, and even if they themselves have left-wing views, who are open-minded and rational. I found the only way for people who, like myself, combine sort of classical liberalism with social conservatism, the only way to survive on modern campuses today in the United States is to find people like that and make alliances with them. And my friend Robbie George said the same thing, that he was only able to survive at Princeton. There were no conservatives on the tenured faculty, but he was able to find Sidney Hook equivalents, people who value rationality and want to hear opposing views that are well stated and informed. And that, in combination with academic questions and these others, mail from home, enabled people like me and Robbie to survive. Thank you very much. I feel very honored to receive this award.